Welcome to Framlingham College in Conversation. My name's Tim McEwan. I'm a leadership consultant and an author. I am today lucky enough to be talking to Finlay and Ruby, who are the current head boy and head girl at Framlingham. What we're going to do is we're going to try to explore the leadership journey that you guys have been on, because I think it's been a year, and I suspect there's been a lot learnt and a lot experienced. So I'd love to dig into that, and also you will recall we had a training session almost this time last year when you were in year 12, and we were exploring what you thought it might mean to be a leader in the school. We're now a year in, and it would be really cool to find out whether or not that your expectation and preconceived ideas have sort of played out in reality. So it's good to be with you. So look, but first of all, how's it going? I mean, you're in the middle of exams. Finlay, how's it going?
It's all right. I've got about 2 weeks till my next exam, so it's quite sort of calm right now. But
okay,
going well.
Ruby, yours are all like backloaded, aren't they, into the second half?
Yeah, it's been quite intense so far, but I think I'm prepared, and I'm looking forward to the other side.
Yeah. So actually something dawned on me. How have you managed to juggle the duties of being being such a leadership responsibility and having to do your studies?
Yeah, it has been hard, but I think I have had to sacrifice some things, but I think we've both supported each other really well. So we've worked well as a dynamic, but then there's always been people that we can go to, and the support, which I think without that it would have been very difficult.
Yeah, you raise a good point actually about the dynamic between the two of you. Do you feel it's been a good team?
Yeah, well, we've both known each other for 7 years almost. Yeah. Like, we both went to the prep school together, right. So it's not like it's someone who you've only known for a few years, don't really know them that well. I feel like we know each other quite well, so it helps definitely if you're sort of working together to know the person you're working with.
Yeah.
Great, so you're able to support.
And I think over the year we've definitely it's improved, and we know kind of just what to do.
That's great. That's really, really good. That's great. So let's look back at 12 months ago when you were appointed, and you probably had preconceived notions. Just as an example, I was speaking to a leader recently who had taken on a new role, and I was having a chat with them, and they said, well, all the things that I thought I needed to worry about are not a problem, and all the things I worry about, I was never expecting them to be an issue. Have you experienced that from what you were expecting on day one, or even day before one started, and where you are now? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's even clear when you speak to other students, like in lower years, and they're like, what do you even do? Because like, to the sort of main student body, you walk in the front in chapel, you speak in chapel, help out in other sort of large events, and that's really about it. That's all you see. So going into like applying for the role and being appointed in it, you think it's just that, but the main thing is sort of the smaller tasks that go on like behind the scenes. So whether that's like a prep school sports tournament have come up, and you have to like organise people to usher the schools to the right place, and like you talk with the staff and things like that. That's sort of more what the job entails, which I thought was quite interesting when I first started.
Yeah, and I think, coming up from year 9, you see the head boy, the head girl, the head of schools, and you're like, oh wow, and you really look up to them. And I think that's something I did definitely throughout my journey here. And then I finally came to it, and I was like, well, it doesn't feel how it looked or how I perceived it. And I think that's something that really I've reflected on, and I've been like, oh, right, it wasn't as scary, or wasn't how I perceived it to be at the beginning.
Good. So what have you really enjoyed about it?
I think just being able to like talk to younger years more, because they know who you are. Because I'll be like just going about my day, I'll be in the gym or something, and a year 9 will come up to me and be like, hi Finlay, or like as I'm walking past them, like lower years will know who I am, and they'll like say hi to me and stuff. It's quite nice, because like before when you're just sort of a student walking around, unless they're really in your house or sort of do the same co-curricular stuff that you do. You don't really tend to know the younger years that well. So I think that aspect of it I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, and kind of adding to that, I think people look up to you and they come to you when they need help or advice or even just a bit of guidance. And I think I really liked that part of the role of just being kind of like a point of call maybe, and like having people come to me and I can help them like how I would have been helped before. So kind of, I suppose, giving back in a way to the school.
Actually, quite an important part of the pastoral network, really, sort of early intervention process.
Yeah, which I think it can be really impactful to know that you're helping somebody else. And I think that's definitely an element of the role that I've enjoyed.
Yeah. Good. And what about what about the other side of that coin? What's been tough that you haven't perhaps enjoyed quite so much?
Oh, definitely perhaps some uncomfortable conversations that I didn't necessarily thought that I was going to have with people in my year or in my friend group, my peers, but then because traditionally I don't like conflict. I like to please people, although I know that's something I've learnt. You can't always do that. But so yeah, uncomfortable conversations have been hard, but they've been necessary, and I think as a result we're all better off afterwards.
It's often the case, isn't it? If there's a difficult conversation to be had, you know it needs to be had. Everyone usually feels better after it, but it's never enjoyable in the moment, is it? Yeah, beforehand it's, I don't know, something I'd get nervous about, but afterwards, yeah. Yeah, it's better to have it, yeah. What about you, Finlay? What was you find hard for you?
It's quite similar, really, because, in your book, you say the biggest sort of aspect of leadership and like making decisions in your behaviour is the context. And I think because in this situation, the people you're leading are friends and peers, I think it's quite difficult to do things like have those conversations and sort of give them guidance. Because at times I feel like, I'm not really in the position to be saying this. I'm 17 years old. It's not really the right kind of dynamic in my head to lead. But I think getting over that sort of mental barrier of like it just feeling weird and sort of destigmatizing it, I think is really important to sort of carrying on in the role successfully, I think.
Do you think people have maybe even respected you a little bit more for being able to have those conversations?
Maybe.
I think kind of, like underneath, there's definitely a layer of respect that perhaps wasn't there before, especially maybe amongst the prefect group, because they see firsthand what we do. And I think, but perhaps to everybody it's maybe a different form of respect that, I don't know, heads of school, I don't know, it's like a concept that perhaps seems daunting, but in reality I really don't think it should be. Yeah.
Because you really are the role models, and I suppose the spotlight is on you. How have you felt being in the spotlight?
I think it is quite difficult because that spotlight shines 24/7, and also because I live in school, I live on site. My mum's a house mistress. It's like you sort of never get away from the said spotlight, because it's just small things. Like everyone knows who you are and what your position is, and they're always looking at you because you are role models. At the end of the day, that is, in my opinion, the biggest aspect of being a prefect is being a role model to like the younger students and even students your age. So I think that part is quite hard mentally, like on yourself, because you're always sort of second guessing yourself, like, should I really do that? But I think that is probably positive because it makes you much more cautious, and you really consider what you're doing and whether that will positively affect the people that are looking up to you.
Yeah. I think for me it was definitely kind of the thought of, is what I'm doing right? Like, am I doing a good job? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing what my predecessors were doing? Kind of, how do I act? And I think that was definitely something that I struggled with at the beginning. But then I think as it progressed, I was like, no, I just need to be me. And I know that might sound a bit cringy, but and so I suppose I kind of came to the idea of just being authentic, and that I've been chosen in this role for a reason, and so I just need to, I suppose, carry on and be me.
So look, for what it's worth, it is not cringy in the slightest. So there are so many leaders out there in the broad world of leadership who are often struggling with, who should I be as a leader? And the answer is almost always will be you. You just choose, the best bits of you, or you choose the volume button that you put on your personality or whatever it might be. And Finlay, to your point, it's about context. So there's a time to be you at max 10 volume. There's a time to be you at 2, but you have to gauge the moment. But I think that's lovely. Just decide to be you, and that shines through. It also shines through when people try not to be themselves and try to be something that they ought to be, or they perceive that they ought to be.
Yeah, and I think, going into the role, there was the Ruby that I thought I should be, and that was different to the Ruby who I am. And so then when I was trying to be the person I thought I should be, I realised it wasn't working. So, and I've just got to be true Ruby.
True Ruby, brilliant. And Finlay, did you find that similar?
Yeah, I think it's the same that Ruby said earlier. Even just moving up into up sixth, when you remember being in like year 9, year 10, looking up to the people like in your house in those sort of year groups, they seemed really old, just really big, really mature. And then when you reach that age, you don't feel like that at all. So it's just kind of putting in perspective that to you, maybe you might not be the same as the people who were in the role before you, but I reckon probably you'd be surprised how you appear to the sort of year 9s, year 10s who are looking up to you. So I think, it's all about the perspective of sort of who you are to other people.
I just think it's brilliant, you guys having these insights now, because there are so many, like I said already, there are so many people out there that are still trying to work this out, in their 20s and 30s and maybe even beyond. So to be able to have those sort of insights now is just fantastic. It's really great to hear. What about, I'd love to sort of touch a little bit on your relationship with the other leaders, so the staff and the teachers. Has that changed at all, or has anything changed in the dynamic?
I think the dynamic is still really similar. They're teachers, staff in general, your students. But I think the biggest change in the relationships has been with like the members of the SLT, like the head, the deputy heads, who you work with quite closely. So like we have meetings with them sort of weekly, bi-weekly, fortnightly, that sort of thing. And you sort of get to know what they deal with, what's going on behind the scenes that you otherwise wouldn't see. So I think that aspect of it has changed a lot. You sort of understand more about what's going on and what their job entails. But in terms of just general day-to-day relationships with staff, I think it's still practically the same.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Finlay on that point. And I think you take on a level of responsibility. And so I suppose you can sympathise, empathise with each other from that. And I think from this role, our relationship has definitely kind of got better, got deeper. And I think that's something that can be really valued.
It's lovely to hear that, because what it says to me is that the relationship that the teachers and the pupil body have right already is good and healthy and open, and all you've done is build on that to a point where maybe you're even more trusted to have some more, perhaps some deeper conversations about what's going on in the school.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think up here, I remember being in the prep school and because it goes up to year 8 in other schools from year 7, you're in the senior school, you feel like you're still treated like a bit of a child, but as soon as you get up here into year 9, the relationship is very professional. You're given a lot of independence to work. A lot is expected of you, but there's a lot of sort of flexibility. And I think that only really develops. It doesn't necessarily change as you sort of progress through the school, which is something that I loved when I first started up here.
Has it been lonely at points?
I think from some respects, yes, because you do have people come to you and then sometimes people are coming to you and it's, well, who do you go to? But then there is such a network of support here that I have never been in a place where I have nobody to go to. And I think, yeah, that's something that I've really taken away and really utilised this year, because it has been overwhelming or stressful at some points, especially with kind of the academics and the co-curriculars as well. But then always having someone to turn to and always having each other, I think, has been really beneficial this year in particular.
But use the team.
Yeah, use the team big time.
Yeah. Have you found it lonely at points?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's similar with what I said about the relationship with teachers. The sort of deputy head and head of sixth form, the head who you talk with a lot more regularly. I now felt that I could sort of talk to them more about like when you were feeling sort of lonely, when you're struggling, that sort of thing. Because, I mean, as you said, like leadership, it can be lonely at the top when you have no one to turn to, but obviously in our situation when we're in a school, there are people above us that we can turn to. So I think that aspect of it is, again, something I wasn't expecting, but something that helped me quite a lot.
Great. And maybe two last points. First of all, I wanted to ask you about what you think you were going to bring to a future employer. What value are you going to add? But then I also want to ask you about about what advice you'd give to the next generation coming through. So first of all, so we're in an interview. You're pitching yourself for a job. What are you bringing from the experience that you've had here to a future employer?
I think mainly what I've sort of developed is empathy, because I understand that, you've got a task, you need to involve others to help, complete that task. And you understand how stressful it can be when people, aren't quite pulling their weight, when people are refusing to do stuff even. So I think, I'd sort of provide a really good understanding of what weight that can hold on an employer, on like my future leaders. And I think that will sort of really help me to work in the future.
Good.
Yeah. I think we've gained the fundamentals of leadership, and we've had this insight and exposure. And so it's not like we're diving into something completely new. We have these set of skills that we've developed, and we're going to continue to develop. And I think that will really aid us in our future. So we'll be able to apply ourselves to so many different situations because of the skills that we've had to kind of acquire during this role, and the wide variety of tasks that it encompasses, I suppose.
Good. And then go on finally, so you're about to hand the baton over in maybe 4 weeks' time, maybe 5 weeks' time. So what is your advice to those coming through, Ruby?
I think primarily it would be to be yourself, to not worry about how other people are perceiving you, because have the confidence to know that you're here for a reason and that you can do it.
Yeah,
I think that'd be my part.
And also, just to build on that, there was something that came up early on in the training we did last year, which was that people felt the perception of being in a leadership position is about the rules and just being an enforcer of the rules. But has that been your experience?
Personally, it hasn't. I suppose we've aided in abiding by the rules, but at no point have I gone around shouting at everyone like, do your tie up, or like, why are you in games kit? At no point it's been like that. And so I think be there to help each other, support each other, but don't let your preconceptions of the role kind of move out, get in the way of what you're actually wanting to do.
Good. No, great.
Yeah.
Finlay, what about you?
I think the whole preconception thing, about how you think it's all enforcing, I think you need to sort of get over that and realise it's more about just being a role model. And in terms of the advice I'd give to my successors, it would be mainly just that sort of stigma, that barrier around being a leader to your peers and to your friends, is to sort of overcome that as soon as possible, because it's mainly in your head, you know, and being able to treat them as equals and respectfully, but also, you know, doing your job is something that is of paramount importance when it comes to sort of being a leader in school.
I think probably a good time for us to wrap up there. That has been an absolutely brilliant conversation. I've so enjoyed hearing the journey you've been through, and as someone that lives in this leadership development space, it is so brilliant to hear the lessons that you've learned here now, that people just spend decades trying to work out for themselves. It's really, really good to hear. So thank you very much for taking time to have a chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.